Hey, welcome to Employee Mastering 365. Today, my name is Reza Torkman. I'm a senior digital transformation consultant at Info Exchange with my colleague Anne. Present you about how you can work with the cloud files in Office 365. Before starting today's session, I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owner of the land that I'm in today, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I would like to pay my respect to the elder past, present, and emerging. So couple of housekeeping rules that we have for these sort of webinars. We encourage everyone to have video on to have more interactive sessions. So please, if you can, put your camera on. Please make sure you are mute yourself during the webinar, during this session. If you have any questions, anything, you can just put on your chat, raise your hand, and also you can just unmute yourself and ask your question during the session. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared within 2 business days together with a copy of the presentation. Now I'd like to just pass to my colleague Anne to start the session.
Thank you so much, Reza, and thank you everyone for joining us today. In today's webinar, we will learn the benefits of storing files in the cloud, key difference between OneDrive, Teams, and SharePoint for file storage, which are the tools that are core of file storage in Microsoft 365. And we will learn how you can sync files to your computer using the OneDrive sync tool for offline working and become more familiar when your user are more familiar with Window Explorer for file browsing experience, you're going to find these features pretty cool. So let's get started. Firstly, we'll find out the benefits of storing files in Microsoft Cloud or cloud platform in general. Firstly, it automatically keeps file histories that includes retaining of versions each time the file is saved. So you no longer have to save multiple versions of the files and cannot figure out what is the latest versions with your team. You can easily access those files stored in cloud from anywhere as long as you have an internet connections and you have your account details with you. So that's really convenient. Storing files in the cloud allows you to synchronize your files to your personal computer and work offline, which we will delve in later in today's webinar. It also enables collaborative editing, so multiple people on the team can work on the same files at the same time, and you can see all the changes and comment in real time. It also allows you to share and, of course, collaborate on files with anyone who has internet connections. So all these good benefits can all come from Microsoft Clouds when you store your files in there. Now we'll get to the core products in Microsoft 365 that support file storage, which are Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. I'll tell you how you should, when you should normally use it and what are the differences between them. So let's start with Teams and OneDrive first. As its name, OneDrive is for one person. It's for yourself. However, Teams, as its name, it's for the whole teams. With Teams, you should use Teams as the main tool for quick collaborations and communication with your teams. Teams provide you with video conferencing and chatting features to connect instantly with colleagues and clients. You should also share, store, and manage resources such as files, folders, task lists, etc., in relevant channels to enhance Teams productivity and collaborations. So if you're wondering what is channel that I just mentioned, it's a concept in Teams in which you can use to organize your teams in there. So feel free to have a try with Teams and find out those new new cool features. So how about OneDrive? With OneDrive, your OneDrive area should be used to store your own documents and files that you wish to keep private to yourself only. It's sort of a substitute for your local drive. So instead of saving files on your computer in your local drive, you can save it into OneDrive and access it from anywhere, from any computer. OneDrive can also be used to store and share draft documents with a few people on a temporary basis until it's ready to eventually store in SharePoint or Teams or your CRM clients and case management system. So in general, OneDrive is a lot like old network drives that we had for our personal use, but way more useful and easier to access. Especially in nowadays, we move to remote learning and working a lot. So yeah, using OneDrive for file storage is very convenient. So let's compare Teams and OneDrive. If you look at your screen right now, you can see that both of them are used for file storage. Their file access is a bit different. With Teams, access is determined by permissions of the Teams or of the folder. However, OneDrive by default, it's only for the person who owns it. And only when that person decides to manually share the files or folder with other people, then those people can access files in OneDrive. Teams is best used for sharing documents or files for collaborations. However, OneDrive is best used for drafting documents or storing personal files. Editing editing files in Teams and OneDrive is similar. Both have version history and collaborations enabled. However, with Teams, security control is very centralized. You easily control the permissions and give different level of permissions to different group of people. However, with OneDrive, permissions must be managed individually. So just as I just mentioned, if you would like to share something with other people, you have to manually share it with those people. Teams is more like a one-stop shop for the application in Office 365. So it has a whole lot of tools such as dashboard, libraries, calendar, branding tools, other than file storage. However, OneDrive is just used for file storage and sharing only. So those are the main difference of Teams and OneDrive. So now you start wondering about SharePoint. How about SharePoint? What is SharePoint? SharePoint is normally used by nonprofits, and it's used by a lot of nonprofits. But after 5 years, when Teams was originally created, it is not 5 years ago. It is not as good as it is now. So now with medium or small size organizations, we're suggesting that you use Teams other than SharePoint, because SharePoint is great for large nonprofits in a way that it can be highly configured, and it can be used as an intranet as well. However, for smaller nonprofits, we recommend the use of Teams in preference to SharePoint because it's take away the burdens of managing the backend of SharePoint. Teams is pretty interactive. It incorporates communication, chat, and call as well, and meetings. So that's why in today's webinar, we'll focus more on Teams and OneDrive. Now I would like to introduce you a tool called OneDrive Sync Tool. I think it's one of the best features so far in Office 365. It allows you to synchronize files from the cloud to your computer. That includes OneDrive, Teams, SharePoint document libraries. So all those file storage tools that I just introduced to you have these synchronization features. Files can be managed and accessed using Window Explorer with OneDrive Sync. which is often easier for us who has been using computers and are so used to Windows Explorer interface. Files can be accessed and work on without an internet connection, which is a plus, because normally when you access cloud files, it would require you internet connections to be constantly edit or update the files. However, with the sync tool, you can access file offline as well if you work on the road a lot or you do not always have internet connections. Changes are automatically synced back when an internet connection is available, so you don't have to worry about whether your files, your set of files is different from other people's sets of files. And when there's a conflict, these are highlighted for resolution. So it will tell you what conflicts is that, and then how you can resolve them. Whether you can merge them or save as a new copy. So it's very straightforward when it comes to those conflicts. By default, files are synced on demand to conserve bandwidth and file storage on your computer. By on demand, I mean when you sync the file, what OneDrive sync tool download to your computer are not the file itself, but it's actually all the metadata of the files. So it stores who created the files, what is the created date, what changes are made to the files. The moment you click on the file itself, it is when the files are actually downloaded to your computer. So it saves a lot of internet bandwidth and file storage. I will show you later today in the demo how you can always keep the physical files on your computer other than the on-demand one. But yeah, by default, this is on-demand, and I find it very helpful when it comes to using the OneDrive sync tool with on-demand. With key folders on your personal computer, such as desktop, documents, etc., you can sync them to your personal OneDrive as a tool. You can use it as a tool to protect key folders on your computer from loss or deletions. So it's also a backup solution as well. So now in today's demo, I will show you how you can sync a document library. What are the different icons in Windows Explorer once you sync your computer, once you sync your document libraries to your computer, and how to collaborate on the same document, how to share that document with other people, and seeing version history of those documents so that you can reverse back to previous versions. So give me 2 seconds. I will now change my sharing screen so you can see how we can share different documents, sync and share different documents. Okay, let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen now. Yeah, it should be there as well. So in today's meeting, I will start from the Teams. As you can see here, I'm in the Teams for demonstrations. So when you come into Teams, you go to Teams tab and you go to a relevant team you'd like to have a conversation or store your files. In this demo today, I'll go to a private Teams for demonstrations. And then I'll go to a general channel, which can be accessed by all the team members in my teams. As you can see, there's a private channel with a key lock icon as well. So yeah, please feel free to explore more when you have a try with Teams. In these channels, I go to Files tab to explore all the files my team and I have saved together. You can see I have some folders with to store logo. I have a demo documents and I have an image as well. However, I want it to be in the File Explorer interface in which I have a better experience with. So that's why I use sync. In order to sync your files or folders to your computer, you can simply, like me, go to your channels in Teams or go to your OneDrive and find the sync button. The moment it's you click on the sync button, if you haven't got OneDrive Syncs tool installed on your computer, it will prompt you. Yeah, Microsoft 365 will prompt you to download and install that OneDrive Sync tool. Once that is installed, and then you go to your File Explorer, you will have a similar view like me, in which under the under your organizations or your tenant's name, Office 365 tenant's name, in this case, it is my organizations called Info Exchange. You can find the folder that you just sync. So you can see it's a general folder under the team called Private Teams for Demonstrations. So you can see the same file structure as you can see here. So it is the same set of files and folder. You work on the same set of files and folder as you work in Teams or OneDrive or SharePoint. It's just a different interface. In here, you might see different status. So they are very different. I will let you know what are those status mean. When you see a cloud icons, it means that the files and folders are stored in the cloud. The moment you click on the file itself and the files turn into a green tick, that means the file is actually downloaded to your computer. OneDrive Syncs tool is very smart that if you use the file a lot, it learns that it's your favorite files and it keeps that files downloaded on the computer. If you no longer use the file for a while, it will release the space. If you would like to release some space on purpose, you can right click and choose free up space. If you work on the road a lot, you do not always have internet connections and want to physically download the files to your computer, you can right click as well and choose always keep on this device. That moment, the status turn into a green background tick, and it means that you always keep it on this device. You always download it to your computer. It's not in the on-demand mode. If you no longer to always keep it on your device, you can right click again and then untick always keep on this device. It's as simple as such. So go back to the demo document that I just opened. In this document, you can collaborate with other peoples in your team a lot. You can type anything in here. If another people come in, you can see their name, and if they comment, you can see that in real time as well. It's very convenient. If multiple people are working on the same documents, Word or Excel or PowerPoint will actively block that block of text or paragraph or those block of cells in case you use Excel, so that multiple people cannot change the same cells or same line of text at the same time to avoid conflicts. If you would like to view previous versions of your documents, you can go to Files, Info, and click on Version History. As you can see, this demo document has been edited a few times by me. I want to view a document versions from 9th June, for example. I open these versions and you can see there are compare and restore features in which you can compare two different versions of the same documents. And if you're happier with an older one, you can press restore to restore the documents to the previous versions. With these features, you no longer have to save multiple versions of the same documents. You can just view these versions and then restore them as you want. So no longer you have those confusing moments trying to find out which is the latest versions of the same documents with your teams. We have gone through how to store documents in the cloud, how you can open, edit, update it with your teams, how to view versions. And now we will find out how you can share it with other people. Once you're happy with your documents or your draft, you can go to File and then press Share. There are multiple ways you can share a document. You can share to edit it with other people, or you can allow them to read only or review only, and you can block download as well. This sharing configuration is managed by the administrator of your own tenant. So if you find some options grayed out like this, that means your administrator is not letting you to access this feature. So for example, on my tenant, they're not allowing me to share the link with anyone on the internet, to just in case I accidentally share sensitive internal documents with other people. So yeah, you might find some options grayed out or a bit different from what you're seeing right now with my sharing options, but don't be scared because that might be configured differently by your administrator at your organizations. You can type in name. So for example, I want to share it with Reza. I type in Reza name and put some message in here to share the document with Reza. Hi Reza, please review this document for me. Or you'd like to share it as an Outlook message, then you can click the Outlook message button. You can copy the link as well to share it directly in the chat or during meetings with your teams. So there are multiple options to share these documents. From a window file explorer view, you can share it directly from there by right-click and press the share button. So you can view all those share buttons by going to the file, edit it, and then share it from the file tab, or just right-click on the files in cloud and or in the folder that you seek, and then choose the suitable share options that is that you find most comfortable with. So that is the demo session that I would like to share with you today. Now I will take you back to our slides, and then I'll give you some tips before we move on to the Q&A sessions. Bear with me for a few seconds. Thank you for your patience. So final top tips before we move on to the Q&A sessions. First, if you close files, you should close your files before disconnecting from your network or turning off your PC. By doing that, you remember to save and make sure all the changes are saved to the cloud space. And please don't ignore file sync issues. As I mentioned before, when you have conflicts or file sync issue, they will give you very clear and straightforward instruction of how you can resolve them. So if you cannot resolve yourself, please also contact your IT provider, IT support, or a Microsoft or Cloud champion in your team, so you can work on those file sync issues together. And finally, know where your organizations want you to store your files. It is a question between Teams, OneDrive, and SharePoint. And if you're not sure, ask, because it's very important to centralize your file storage. Make a choice of where you and your teams store files, put that in policies and procedures. Better done that right before you even start migrating files into the cloud space. If you find it confusing, sit down with a tech champion in your team. Don't just happy and store it wherever you can think of. And then later on, when you try to consolidate the files or you try to reorganize it, it's even more challenging and takes more time and effort than you've done it right from the start. If you already store the file and then have in the cloud and have issue with that, sit down with your team, review the file structure, and find out what is the best structure that works for your team and your business process, and reorganize it together. And before the Q&A sessions, I just want to say Microsoft 365 or any cloud platform or file storage is a journey. It's not a destination. You need to constantly work together on it and then keep it clean, just like keep your house clean. And if there's issues, let's resolve it together so that you will find it more and more comfortable with using this technology and enable it to help you more with your daily works and life. Now I hand over back to Reza so we can start the Q&A sessions.
Great. Thanks, Anne. It's really good and informative session. So before starting the session, I just post the webinar feedback, which help us to improve the content and how we present the technical terminology to you, and how we can simplify that, and also your future requirement for any future webinars. Please complete this one. It takes about 20 seconds to complete the survey. Um, uh, and also please post your question, raise your hand and unmute yourself to ask the question. And we have a question that Leanne asked about: for very small organization, 3 to 4 staff, would you recommend OneDrive rather than Teams?
So you're not the first one. First client I met who would like to use OneDrive for small organizations. So that's the case when a person who mainly work as an office general manager or the CEO, they share folders in OneDrive with other members of the teams to use that OneDrive as an organizational files. Sometimes it happens with team leader or project manager as well. However, issue happens when more people come into the team, or that the person who initially owned that OneDrive left the organizations. Because the OneDrive folders or OneDrive files are by default only accessible to the person who owned it. So the moment they left the organizations, permissions become very challenging, whether you need to decide whether you keep that OneDrive of the persons that just left, or you have to migrate those files and folders to another area that can be viewed by everyone. And sometime when you need to share files, those files and folder with other people in the team, it's hard because they don't have the permissions to actually share the files or folders in that OneDrive. And only the person who owns it can actively manage their permissions. So I would not recommend you using OneDrive to store organizational files. If it's something temporary, maybe, okay. But if it's in the long run, I would not recommend it.
Great.
Do you want to add
Thanks.
anything?
Thanks, Anne. No, that's pretty good, basically. Any other question? We are in, thanks, Leanne, and we are in 1:30. So any other questions? I think that's all. And thank you so much, everyone. Thanks for your time to attend this webinar. Please check the Connecting Up webinar pages. We have a question. Jeff asked us about autosave to the Teams, and
Yeah. Can you repeat the question, please, Reza?
autosave to Microsoft Teams.
Oh, autosave to Microsoft Teams. So with all by auto, I'm not sure what you mean by autosave, but with all the files and folders you save in the cloud space, which you can save in OneDrive, Teams, or SharePoint, you can always find that autosave tool button on the top left hand side of your files. So for example, I saved that Word documents in the cloud in Teams area that I just opened in the demo. The moment I open it and edit things in that document, it always autosave. The changes I made in that files is constantly saved to that folders and to the files I save in Teams. If you would like to save files that you work on the computer to Teams, the easiest way is you sync that folders or sync that file tabs of one of the channels in your Teams or where you would like to save that files in Teams to your computer, just as I did. Sync the folder to your local computer, work on the file on the computer, and then save that files to the sync area on your computer, so that files is always safe in the cloud. I hope that makes sense. Do you want to add anything, Reza?
No, actually, Jeff, in terms of autosave in the Word document at the top left-hand side, there is an auto button. By default is on. So if you type anything, it's just automatically updates on the cloud. It's OneDrive or SharePoint. So you can just check and uncheck that one as well.
Yeah,
You can just find that one at the top. Yep.
Yeah, I just share it and you can have a look at the top left corner. I'll just save and turn this on. It's on by default, but yeah, make sure it's on so it's auto save.
Great. Any other question at this stage? Yes, we will send you the recording and slides after this webinar. Great. Thank you so much, everyone. And thanks for your time and see you in the next sessions.
Yeah, please fill in that survey so we know what we can do better in the next sessions. And I see you in the next Lunch and Learn. Thank you, everyone. Bye.